red light from dying stars painted the metal walls of the big alien ship called Eternal Peace. Ambassador Thielka stood at the window with his forearms shaking. He watched another planet burn far away in space. The Kroth swarm had eaten everything on Vern 3 in just a few hours. Now, only empty metal pieces floated where a whole world used to be. His helper Melkor came up beside him. Her crystal-like face looked very sad. 12 star systems in 2 months, she said quietly. If they keep going this fast, they will reach our homeworld Sanctuary Prime in 1 week. Thelka felt sick in his stomach. The Vallani people had never fought a war before. They were peaceful beings who built beautiful cities and made dead planets come alive with plants and water. Their energy shields could stop big space rocks from hitting their ships. They could make new worlds bloom with life. But the Kroth were different. These biomechanical monsters just ate everything in their path like hungry animals made of metal and flesh. Send a message to everyone in the galaxy, Thelka told his crew. His voice was tired and scared. Tell them the Kroth swarm is coming to the edge of the galaxy. Tell them we are the Vallani Confederation, and we are about to die. The message went out into the dark of space, traveling faster than light to reach anyone who might listen. 3 days later, and very far away, Captain Li Donghan was drinking coffee on his human ship, called the Defiant. He was reading boring reports when suddenly alien voices came through the radio. He almost spit out his coffee when he saw the pictures that came with the message. Giant living ships with metal teeth were eating whole planets. Space stations were being torn apart like toys. Small figures that looked like people were being swallowed by mechanical jaws. "Sir," said Lieutenant Park Sujin from her station, "this message is only 4 days old. These Kroth things are heading straight for something called Sanctuary Prime." Donghyun looked at his small fleet of 12 human ships on the computer screen. They were good ships with brave crews, but they looked like tiny bugs compared to the monster ships in the alien video. The energy readings showed the Kroth ships were huge and powerful. Fighting them would be like trying to stop a hurricane with a handful of stones. But those weren't just random aliens being eaten in the video. They were families, parents and children. People just trying to live their lives. Set course for Sanctuary Prime, Donghyun ordered his crew. Full speed, First Officer Kim Taeho looked worried. "Captain, we were only told to look around and report back. If we fight without permission, Earth Command will put us in prison when we get home." Donghyun watched the video again. A Kroth bioship was pulling apart a space station piece by piece. He could see tiny people floating in space, trying to escape before the mechanical mouths caught them. Someone's mother, someone's child, someone's whole family being destroyed by monsters. "Then they can put a hero in prison," he said. He turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to all ships in our fleet. Tell them we have innocent people under attack. Get ready for battle." The 12 human ships turned away from their safe patrol route and flew toward the unknown. Their engines burned bright blue in the darkness as they raced through space. The crews checked their weapons and said prayers to whatever gods they believed in. They were flying toward a war they probably could not win. The alien monsters were bigger, stronger, and more advanced than anything humanity had ever faced. But that did not matter to the humans. They had heard people crying for help, and they were going to answer that call. Captain Donghyun sat in his command chair and thought about his wife and daughter back on Mars. He might never see them again. But if the Kroth won, if they kept eating planets and people, maybe no one would be safe anywhere in the galaxy. "How long until we reach Sanctuary Prime?" he asked. 2 days at maximum speed, sir, came the reply. "Good. Send another message to the Vallani. Tell them help is coming. Tell them to hold on just a little longer." The human fleet flew through the dark between stars, carrying hope to a dying species. Behind them, Earth and all of human space continued their daily lives, not knowing that Their soldiers were about to fight the most important battle in galactic history. In space, size and power were not everything. Sometimes the smallest acts of courage could change the fate of entire civilizations. The humans were about to prove that a shield made of determination could protect against any sword. The space around Sanctuary Prime buzzed with energy as the Villani defenders got ready for their last battle. Ambassador Thielka stood in the control room, watching his people prepare to die. Through the big windows, he could see the enemy ships coming out of hyperspace like a swarm of metal bugs. The Kroth had arrived. Their bioships looked like living nightmares made of metal and flesh. They had sharp teeth and tentacles that moved like they were alive. The smallest ones were as big as cities. The largest ones could eat entire moons. "Fire all weapons," shouted Defense Coordinator Yelna. The Villani ships shot their most powerful energy beams at the attackers. These were weapons that could turn whole moons into dust. The bright beams hit the Kroth ships and did almost nothing. The bioships just absorbed the energy and kept coming. "They are learning from our attacks," Yelna said with fear in her voice. "Each time we shoot them, our weapons work less and less." The Kroth bioships were getting smarter. Their living metal hulls were changing and adapting to stop the Villani weapons. It was like fighting an enemy that got stronger every time you hit it. Then, something strange appeared on their screens. "Sir, 12 new ships just came out of hyperspace," reported a young Villani officer. "But they look different." Felka looked at the display and could not believe what he saw. The new ships were small and ugly. They looked like metal hammers, flying through space. Instead of smooth energy engines, they had fire coming out of the back like old chemical rockets. "Are those ships from the Stone Age?" asked Melkor, Felka's helper. The primitive ships flew straight toward the Kroth formation. One of them, called Soul's Fury, was heading directly at a Kroth destroyer that was 3 times bigger. It looked like a tiny bug flying at a giant spider. "Are they going to ram that bioship?" Melkor asked, not understanding what she was seeing. A human voice came over the radio. It was speaking in basic galactic language but with a strange accent. "Unknown alien ships. This is Captain Dong Hyen of the United Earth ship, Defiant. We got your cry for help. Stay where you are. We will make things fair." The small human ship Soul's Fury flew straight at the huge Kroth destroyer. Captain Nam Ji-woo pushed his engines to maximum power. Just when it looked like he was going to crash into the bioship, he dropped something and turned away fast. Nuclear mines floated in space where the human ship had been. The Kroth destroyer, which had been learning to stop energy weapons, sailed right into the trap. It had no time to adapt to this new kind of attack. The explosion was brighter than a sun being born. The huge bioship broke apart into millions of pieces. Its adaptive armor, which had been getting stronger against energy beams, could not protect it from simple explosive devices. "That is impossible," Felka whispered. "They killed it with old weapons." Another human voice came over the radio. This one belonged to Lieutenant Park Soo-jin from a ship called Harmony. "Villani ships, we are sending you fighting information. Can you make your energy shields work backwards? Work backwards." Yelna's translator had trouble understanding, but that would turn our defensive shields into attack weapons. "Yes, exactly." Captain Donghyan's voice was excited. "These Kroth things learn to stop attacks that stay the same. But if you hit them with something completely different every time, they cannot adapt fast enough." For the first time in many months, Felka felt something good in his chest. Hope. These humans fought like crazy people, but their crazy fighting actually worked. The human ships were doing impossible things. They used kinetic bullets instead of energy beams. They rammed their ships into bioships and flew away at the last second. They dropped mines and used chemical explosives. Each attack was different from the last one. The Kroth bioships tried to adapt, but they could not learn fast enough. Their living hulls kept changing to stop energy weapons, then changing again to stop bullets, then changing again to stop explosives. They were getting confused. "Look," shouted a Volani gunner. "The bioships are fighting each other." Some Kroth ships had adapted their hulls to absorb energy. Others had adapted to deflect solid objects. When they bumped into each other, their different adaptations made them attack their own allies by accident. "All Volani ships," Thielka announced over the radio, "do what the humans say. Change your shields into weapons. Make every attack different. And ... thank you, Captain Donghin." "Do not thank us yet," came the serious reply from the human captain. "This was just their scouting group. The real army is still coming." But as Thielka watched human and Volani ships working together to drive off the first Kroth attack, he felt something his people had not felt for months. They had a chance. These strange humans, with their primitive ships and crazy tactics, had given them a chance to survive. The real war was about to begin. The old mining station Karo 7 floated dead in space, but now it buzzed with new life. Major Ominsu had turned the empty halls into a school for war. Holographic displays showed battle plans and fighting tactics all over the walls. The Volani commanders sat in chairs that were too small for their forearms, listening to the human teacher with wide eyes. These peaceful aliens had never learned how to fight aggressive wars. They only knew how to defend their homes. "Your people fight very well," Minsu told Defense Coordinator Yelna. He pointed at pictures of Volani ships in perfect lines. "You make beautiful formations. You use your energy in the best ways. Your defensive positions are perfect, like in textbooks. But you fight by rules that the Kroth do not care about." Chief Engineer Ko Yunhar looked up from her computer station. She had been studying captured pieces of Kroth bioships for days. "We learned something important about their ships. They are not just weapons. They are like living things. They change and grow, because they are actually evolving while we fight them." Thelka felt confused and scared. How do we fight against evolution? How do you battle something that gets better every second? Commander Shinbora, from the human ship. Busan stood up. She was a small woman, but her voice was strong. "By being unpredictable. Evolution works when there is steady pressure, like water making a canyon. But chaos breaks everything." "I do not understand," said Yel-Na. Minsu, smiled, and changed. "The holographic display. Watch this. If I hit you the same way every time, you learn to block it. But if I hit you differently each time, you cannot prepare." The Kroth bioships are very smart, but they need patterns to learn from. No patterns means no learning. 3 days later, they got a chance to test this new idea. A Kroth hive ship, as big as a small moon, attacked the Volani colony of New Garden. This monster was eating the gas collection platforms that the colony needed to survive. Its biomechanical arms reached out like metal tentacles, consuming everything they touched. "All Volani ships," Captain Donghayan announced over the radio, "use pattern K-7. What happened next looked like madness. The Volani ships, which usually flew in perfect formations, began flying in random directions. They switched between using their shields as weapons and using their normal energy beams. There was no pattern at all. The human ships did even crazier things. Some shot solid metal bullets. Others used electromagnetic waves to confuse the bioship's brain. One human captain actually rammed his small fighter into the hive ship's tentacle and flew away before it could grab him. The giant hive ship tried to adapt to all these different attacks. Its living armor got harder to stop energy weapons, but then it became weak against metal bullets. Its biocircuits changed to resist electromagnetic waves, but then they became easy targets for particle beams. "Look at it," whispered Melkor. In amazement, "The hive ship is shaking. It looks confused." Lieutenant Jang, the Jin's voice came over the radio from her fighter cockpit, and she was laughing. "It is trying to evolve in every direction at the same time, but you cannot grow 12 different ways, all at once. The massive bioship began to twist and turn in space. Its adaptive systems were fighting against each other. The armor that had evolved to stop one kind of attack was making it weak against another kind of attack. The creature's own evolution was destroying it from the inside. Suddenly, the hive ship started to die. Its death was violent and terrible. The biomechanical monster thrashed so hard that it broke 3 small moons into pieces. But the colony of New Garden was safe. After the battle, rescue ships flew around, collecting survivors from the wreckage. Felka found himself standing next to Captain Donghayan in the observation room of the Defiant. Through the big window, they watched human and Villani crews working together to save people. Your people fight like they have nothing left to lose, Felka said quietly. Donghayan shook his head. No, we fight like we have everything to protect. There is a big difference. Felka thought about this. The Villani had always fought to save themselves. But the humans fought to save others, even strangers they had never met. Maybe that was why their crazy tactics worked so well. When you fight for someone else, you will try anything. Will this chaos fighting work against all the Kroth? Felka asked. For a while, Donghayan answered. But they will, eventually, learn to handle chaos too. We need to keep changing our methods. The moment we start repeating ourselves, they will figure us out. Then we must never stop changing. Never, agreed the human captain. In war, the side that stops adapting is the side that dies. Looking out at the stars, Felka realized that the humans had taught his people more than just new fighting tactics. They had taught them that survival sometimes meant thinking in completely new ways. The human colony of Beta 7 was emptying out like water from a broken cup. Giant Villani transport ships came down through the sky like floating cities, their hulls shining in the afternoon sun. Human families who had lived on this world for many years packed their whole lives into metal boxes. Krishna, a young Villani engineer with crystal-like skin, watched the humans load their belongings. He was confused by what he saw. I do not understand, he said to his human friend, Sergeant Yoon, Do-yoon. Your people are leaving colonies they built with their own hands, just to make room for strangers. Do-yoon picked up a heavy crate full of medical supplies, and carried it to the Villani ship. Sweat ran down her face from the hard work. Strangers, she said, wiping her forehead. She pointed to a group of children playing near the loading area. Human kids and Villani kids were laughing together as they chased each other around the cargo. Boxers, look around, Kresh, Do-yoon said with a smile. Do those kids look like strangers to you? The friendship between the human soldier and the alien engineer had become famous across both fleets. Working together, they had built new kinds of fighter ships. These small craft combined human creativity with Villani technology. The ships could fly through the tentacles of bioships like dancers and hit weak spots with perfect aim. But the Kroth had been learning too. Far away on the bridge of the scout ship, Daegu. Commander Beak, Inho, stared at his instruments with fear in his eyes. Long-range sensors show huge energy readings, he reported to Admiral Choi Hyren. His voice was shaking. Sir, they are heading for Earth. The bridge became completely quiet. Earth was humanity's birth world, the blue planet, where 8 billion people lived. It was home to every human's ancestors. How much time do we have? Asked Admiral Choi. She had just been promoted to command the combined human and Villani fleet. 18 hours, if they fly at maximum speed, came the terrible answer. The humans on the bridge looked at each other with fear. Earth was too far away. They could not get their ships there in time to help defend it. Then Theoka's voice came over the radio and cut through their despair. Human fleet, this is the Villani Confederation. We are moving all our shield generators to defend Earth. Admiral Choi could not believe what she was hearing. Ambassador, that will leave all your colonies with no protection at all. Yes, Delka replied in a simple voice. You taught us that some things are worth protecting no matter what it costs. Earth is the home world of the species that helped us when no one else would. We will not let it die." The combined fleet of human and Valani ships flew through space as fast as they could go. They arrived at Earth just as the Kroth planet killers were coming down from the sky. These monsters were as big as continents, with mouths that could swallow whole cities. The Valani shield ships had changed their entire hulls into massive energy barriers. They formed a protective shell around Earth, like a soap bubble made of pure energy. The blue and green planet sat safely inside this glowing sphere. Lieutenant Colonel Lim Soo-young spoke to all the fighter pilots over the radio. "Listen up, everyone. The enemy wants to eat our home world. I think we should give them a very bad stomachache instead." The battle for Earth was the longest and hardest fight of the war. It went on for 14 hours straight. Human fighters dove at bioships while Valani cruisers provided covering fire. The space around Earth filled with explosions and laser beams. Kroth planet killers tried to break through the Valani shields, but the energy barriers held strong. Every time a bioship got close to Earth, human and Valani fighters would attack, and from all sides, using their chaos tactics. On the planet's surface, people looked up at the sky and saw lights flashing like the biggest fireworks show ever. They knew their defenders were fighting and dying above them. When the sun finally rose over Earth the next morning, it shone on something beautiful. Human ships and Valani ships floated together in orbit around the planet. Many were damaged and scarred from battle, but they had won. Earth was safe. Dayun found Krishna in the medical bay of their ship. The Valani engineer was getting treatment for burns on his arms from when his fighter had been hit. "Still think we are strangers?" she asked with a tired smile. Krishna looked at the human and Valani medics working side by side to help wounded soldiers from both species. "No," he said. "I think we are family now." Outside the medical bay windows, Earth turned slowly in space, blue and beautiful and alive. Around it, the combined fleet kept watch. They had proven something important that day. Courage was like a disease that spread from person to person. When someone was brave enough to help strangers, those strangers became brave enough to help others. The war was not over yet, but something had changed. The galaxy had learned that the strongest shields were built not from metal or energy, but from friendship. The Kroth Prime Nexus floated in the center of the galaxy like a sixth star. Its surface was made of living metal and flesh that moved, like a beating heart. This was the brain of the Kroth swarm, the place where all the bioships got their orders. It had eaten the life from 1,000 worlds to grow this big dot. Captain Dong Hyen stood on the bridge of the last light, a huge Valani ship that had been changed from a peaceful explorer into a warship. Through the windows, he could see the Nexus getting bigger and bigger as they flew toward it. 30 minutes until we reached the target, he announced to his crew. His voice was calm, but everyone knew this might be their last battle. Admiral Choi, Hiren's voice came over the radio from the command ship far behind them. "Remember, everyone, we only get one chance at this. The energy cascade must be started from inside the Nexus. If we fail, the Kroth will spread to every world in the galaxy." Down in the fighter bay, Lieutenant Colonel Park Min-jun checked his small ship one last time. His alien friend Krishna was doing the same thing to his own fighter right next to him. The Valani's crystal skin was glowing brighter than usual, which meant he was nervous. "Do you still think humans are crazy?" Min-jun asked his wingman. "Of course," Krishna replied, and his translator made sounds that seemed like laughing, "but it is a good kind of crazy." The attack began when every ship in the combined fleet shot at the Nexus at the same time. Metal bullets, energy beams, shield weapons, and ramming ships all hit the giant biostructure together. The Nexus shook like it was having a seizure as its adaptive defenses tried to handle so many different attacks at once. "We made a hole," shouted Commander Ko Yoon from our engineering station. "Fighter squadrons, you have an opening. Go now." The small fighters dove toward the Nexus like birds flying into a storm. Minjan pushed his engines to maximum power as he led his squadron through the breach in the biomechanical hull. Inside, the Nexus looked like the inside of a giant living creature. The walls pulsed with veins of light, and tentacles reached out to grab the small ships. "Stay together," Minjan called over the radio. "Follow the main tunnel toward the core." The growth consciousness felt them coming. The Nexus began to defend itself by closing tunnels and growing new walls to trap the fighters. Sharp metal spikes shot out from the ceiling. Living cables tried to wrap around the small ships. "My ship is stuck, Lieutenant Zhang." The Jin's voice came over the radio. Biometal was growing around her fighter like a cage. "Keep going without me. Complete the mission." More fighters got trapped as they flew deeper into the Nexus. The biostructure was learning how to catch them, but each pilot who got captured had cleared the way for the others to go further. Minjan and Krishna were now flying alone through a tunnel that looked like the inside of a throat. The walls were closing in behind them, trying to crush their ships. "There," Krishna pointed ahead. "I can see the central core." The heart of the Nexus was a huge chamber filled with pulsing light. This was the brain that controlled every Kroth bioship in the galaxy. If they could destroy it, the entire swarm would die. But the chamber was protected by thousands of defense systems. Energy beams shot at them from every direction. Living missiles chased their fighters through the air. "The energy cascade device is armed," Minjun reported to Admiral Choi. "But I have to get close to the core to trigger it." "Minjan, that is a one-way trip," came Admiral Choi's voice, tight with sadness. "I know," Minjan replied calmly. "Tell my family that their son helped save the galaxy." Minsun's fighter flew straight toward the core, dodging the defense systems. Behind him, Krishna provided covering fire, shooting down the living missiles that were chasing his human friend. "Wait," Krishna called over the radio. "I have an idea. What if we both trigger it together? 2 cascade devices will be stronger than 1. That means we both die," Minjan said. "Then we die as brothers," Krishna replied. The 2 fighters flew side by side toward the pulsing core of the Nexus. Energy beams burned holes in their hulls, but they did not stop. At the last moment, both pilots activated their energy cascade devices. The explosion started small, like a spark in dry grass. Then it spread through the Nexus like wildfire. The biomechanical structure began to tear itself apart as the cascade destroyed its living systems. The Kroth collective consciousness screamed across the galaxy as it died. Every bioship in space suddenly stopped moving. Without the Nexus to control them, they became just dead metal floating in the dark. Hours later, rescue ships found the wreckage of both fighters deep inside the destroyed Nexus. Against all hope, Minjun and Krishna were still alive, unconscious but breathing in their damaged cockpits. The war was over. The galaxy was free.